Hello and welcome to our channel. If you haven't been here before, remember to like, subscribe to the channel for more music industry fun stuff, where we take a look, a bit of a deep dive into the music industry, but do it in a kind of fun sort of way. The industry's too serious anyway, so if you like the sound of that, then get involved. So today we're going to be addressing the subject of Nepo babies in the music industry. And we're going to be specifically talking about an artist called Zulan. Some of you might be familiar with her, especially if you like electronic music. You'll probably have seen some of her videos, mainly on TikTok and other kind of short form platforms. But she is friggin' everywhere, all over the place, right? But also getting quite a lot of hate at the moment for, you know the drill, you know the story, being a Nepo baby. And today what we're going to do is we're going to drill down into the kind of truth of that. How true is it? Is that a fair comment? Is that an unfair comment? How has her career kind of started? How has her trajectory been? As well as a kind of wider conversation about how upset should we be with Nepo babies in the music industry? Is it just part of life, or is it people gaming a system for an unfair advantage? How enraged should we be? How angry should we all be about this, right? So I'm going to start this video by talking about what initially drew me to this as an issue, which is a video on Music Industry Truth's TikTok page. So I'll just put some of the main kind of clips and points from that video in here now.
But don't be fooled. Her rise to fame is not organic. She's an industry plant. She was opening for Swedish house mafia in Ushuaia, Ibiza without a song to her name or any established brand. Her mother, Deborah Dugan, is the former CEO of the Recording Academy and a former Disney executive. Her father, the founder of Mundos Music, a boutique world music agency specializing in international project management and artist branding.
Okay, so the first thing to be addressed there is that her parents are both either music industry execs or former music industry executives. This, obviously potentially can open some doors. But in my experience, I would also say sometimes it can be a negative as well. I've worked with many artists before who their parents are their artist manager, but I've also worked with quite a few whose parents are well known in the music industry or have careers in the music industry, but absolutely want nothing to do with it. So that in of itself is what it is. You can't choose who your parents are, right? I wish I could.
The single was actually produced by Area Atlantica, and it heavily samples a song by Claro, released in 2018, that already has hundreds of millions of plays.
Is it ever gonna change? Am I gonna feel this way forever? Is it ever gonna change? Am I gonna feel this way forever?
So the song was, in a sense, too big to fail. Moreover, she was featured on one of Spotify's flagship playlists, Creamy, and placed in the 4th spot on Mint, Spotify's top dance music playlist, again with no track record of releases or actual catalogue of music. The only thing she has to hang her hat on is fatuous clip-farmed content from social media of her playing other people's songs at raves. Part 2 coming next.
Okay, so that's part 1.
Recently published an article promoting Zulan and her new single, Forever. They present her as an independent rising star. At first glance, the story seems inspiring, but when you dig deeper, the facts paint a very different picture. One of a kind of wealth that grants access, and some might say, gaming the system. Zulan is signed to Wasserman, one of the most powerful talent agencies in the world. For a debut artist with 0 releases to secure representation with an agency of this caliber is virtually unheard of. 2025 appearance at Coachella's Do-Lab stage as proof of her credibility. But here's what they don't tell you. At the time she was booked, Zulan hadn't a single released song. Achieving this booking would be impossible. Coachella doesn't hand out opportunities like this to unknowns, which raises the question, whose deep pockets are funding this? If you watched my first video, you already know her father is a successful soccer company executive and music executive at a world music...
Okay, so there's quite a lot to unpack here. So she had supported Swedish House Mafia before releasing a piece of music. She had played Coachella before ever releasing a piece of music. She had a lot of opportunities that a lot of us would, tear off many of our limbs for before there was any actual music in existence, right? Again, unusual. Not unheard of, though. There are other electronic music artists out there who don't release music as such, who have played big shows. People like Ben UFO, Jackmaster, Girls Don't Sink, for example, hadn't released any music for a long time. So it's not unheard of. So let's backtrack a little bit here and talk a little bit about this artist's strategy and how this artist has grown a incredibly significant audience. So on its very base level, it's the tried and tested, always successful method of clipping up DJ sets in the kind of boiler room style, right? And this can be very, very effective if you're able to do it, right? So I'm looking through her page now, and there are I mean, there are hundreds of these, like so many clipped up DJ sets, so much going on. And it all looks very cool, right? All looks great, really professional, really, really well done. I'm actually intrigued as to where her first one was. Where was her first show? Let's have a look. Lots of scrolling going on here. Okay, so first video is in 2023, and she still has a massive room full of people attending her event. I don't know if you've ever put on events or been a DJ. It's quite difficult to get people to come, especially to your first event. She seems to have a massive club full of people already from day one and continuing throughout her process. Now, there is potentially an answer to this. I also know that Zulan went to USC, which is a very prestigious university in South Carolina, I want to say. Lots of really successful DJs have gone there. So there is a community there that are interested in electronic music. So that would explain why she's able to get people to her shows and, crucially, have a busy room. And it's so important when you do the boiler room strategy that you record a busy nightclub full of people. That's the thing that people find hard about that strategy. Every electronic music artist would do this if they were able to, every single show they play, have thousands of people at it. But most of us don't have that. She appears to have that from day one without ever any music being out there. Only, her and her friends and people on her team will understand how that's possible. I don't really understand how that's possible, but she's managed it. So, okay. So she is also signed to Wasserman, which is a massive branding company. It has like football players and models and all sorts on it. So that, again, that will give her quite a lot of opportunities, but I don't necessarily hold anything against her for that because she has a big brand, she has a big audience. What typically comes with that is an agency, so that is what it is. But she has also had quite a lot of support from other influencers in the space. Now, I work with influencers a lot, and I can tell you they are not cheap. They're not cheap at all. So that has been funded by someone, right? More than likely her family or her team, right? So all of these things that she has managed to do from day one, or since 2023, are not cheap things to do. The equipment of filming all of this, the ability to get roomfuls of people, the ability to be able to put on events without risk of failure is a bit of a privilege in of itself, because most people, if they put on a party in London or LA or whatever and nobody shows up, there's quite a big financial risk involved with that, which she doesn't seem to have. So I'd summarise this by saying, yes, she probably has had some quite significant advantages to her career. But that's not really the point of this video, right? Because we all would if we could, right? There's no point pretending that we all wouldn't do these things if we could. And in addition to that, she probably doesn't have to do all of this. She's in all of her videos. She did put on all of these events. She has recorded all of this stuff, and there is effort involved in doing all of these things, right? It's not, what she's done isn't a piece of piss, right? It's not easy what she has done, right? Otherwise we would all do it. But she has had advantages. I think that's completely fair to say. I'm gonna tell you guys where I draw the line and where I have a bit of a problem. Because I have no problem with anyone who's got financial means or access to the industry or advantages over other people, utilising those advantages, because we're all privileged in certain ways. It's just some of us more than others. But there's a couple of things that I think are wrong. Firstly, so you'll notice that in all of her videos she wears a football shirt, right? Very cool. Big fan of that myself, right? I love retro football kits. I love football kits from all over the world, right? But there's one thing that she has done which I think slips her up on this. So, she is of Argentinian heritage. Her family are Argentinian, right? So that's hence, and she talks a lot about soccer culture being a big part of... I just said soccer. Get it right. I'll do that again. She talks a lot about how football culture is a big part of her career, a big part of her journey, a big part of her heritage. Fine, absolutely, right? She's Argentinian, and there's multiple clips of her wearing a Brazil kit. Lots of kits of her wearing a Brazil kit. Now, anyone who knows anything about football will know That is a no-no. That is a no-no. That's a big, big no-no, right? I mean, giving her the benefit of that, potentially she is half Argentinian, half Brazilian, or has Brazilian heritage as well. But that, to me, it reeks a little bit of when David Cameron used to pretend that he was an Aston Villa fan and then he accidentally said West Ham was his team. Do you know what I mean? If you don't know about football, you shouldn't pretend to know about football. I don't know, that rubs me up the wrong way a little bit because that feels very fake, very disingenuous to me, right? And the second thing that actually bothers me about this, again, if you're rich, you're rich. If you're privileged, you're privileged, fine. Whatever, you do you. You're very lucky, right? But the thing that does bother me about this is that when she has dropped one single, right? So it's called Forever. And she dropped it as a Zulan release. But it's clearly not. Now, I'm looking at the credits here. And again, it's nothing new. She's not the first person to do this. And I'm sure she was advised very well by her industry connections. But written by, that's a lot of names on there. Produced by Air Atlantica. That's probably the main producer on this project, right? So that's probably the person who did the majority of the song. I'm making an assumption there, but I think that's fair to assume because this is Zulan's first ever release, and I mean it's really, really good. It's obviously a Claro sample, but it's got 5 million streams. Nobody can achieve that with their first song unless they've had a lot of help, obviously. So that is what bothers me, right? Because you should do one of two things. A, if you've become really, really big as a social media DJ, and then you decide, oh, I'm gonna put out some of my own music, right? It should be your own music, and it should be shit to start with, right? I would respect that. I would have no problem with that. If these social media DJs put out their own music, and it was their own music, and it wasn't that great, cool. Like, fair enough. At least it's yours. Nobody's great the first thing they put out, right? But at least it would be theirs, right? Or don't put your artist name to it. Do it as a collaboration with that artist or be a featured artist on it. Because the problem is a lot of young kind of producers who are just coming up, who work really, really hard, will see this and they will see, whoa, what the hell? This artist, Zulan, who I like, not only is she playing massive shows, incredibly cool, she's incredibly good looking, and now also with her first song, the first ever thing she puts out, it's this good. It presents an unrealistic view of how this works and the kind of effort that you need to put in to be good, right? I would love just once for a social media DJ who has made it big on social media, which is a skill in of itself, right? And nobody's saying that isn't, right? It's hard to market yourself, and she has done it incredibly well, right? Apart from wearing a Brazil kit when she's Argentinian, that was a mistake. But that's fine, but then don't pretend that you have the skill set of a music producer who it would probably take about 10 years to get that good, minimum, at making music, because it presents an unrealistic reality for up and coming producers, right? So that's where I have a problem with this. So to summarize, basically, I'm not bothered that somebody is rich and has opportunities and takes those opportunities. Ultimately, she has done the work in terms of doing all of these shows, doing all of these performances, being active on her content, working with people to kind of make sure that she has a good brand. Kudos to that, right? Fair play to you. That's a difficult thing to do. Most of us will never achieve it. But my problems are, A, wearing a fucking Brazil kit when you're Argentinian. That's so no. And B, the pretending that the producing a song when it's clear that that should not be your first ever release, because that's just crazy, right? Because it paints an unrealistic portrait of what's possible. So there you go. There's my thoughts on nepotism in the music industry and Zulan as a case study. By the way, it's not just her. She's not the only one. She's not the first, she won't be the last. But there's quite a lot of discourse about this at the moment, which is why I'm kind of chatting on it. If you enjoyed, like, subscribe, get involved. Thanks for listening.